Hey there, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Priscilla, and this is The Chat with Priscilla. We just kind of chat around here about good stuff. Today's going to be a great opportunity for you to hear about an organization that is making incredible changes in the lives of young people all over the world, really. Nancy Alcorn is here. She is the founder of Mercy Multiplied. And when you hear about how this ministry is multiplying mercy all over the world, you're going to be so glad you now know all about it. So please stay tuned. I am glad that you are here. So glad that you are here, and so glad that all of you in the audience today are here as well. I'm going to be able to introduce you to a woman that when I first met her about 7 or 8 years ago, I was blown away. Not only by what she's accomplished in ministry and in her organization, but just by her as a woman, the determination, the diligence, the faithfulness, the vision that she has had to have to do what she's done over the past 30 years or so has been nothing less than remarkable. So just sit tight, because you're going to want to hear not only from this particular woman, but also from the lives of a couple of others whose stories have been completely changed. The trajectory of their life has been set on a completely different path because of her influence. Would you please welcome to the program today, Miss Nancy Alcorn. Come on, Nancy. How are you?
So good to see you.
I'm so glad that you're here. Have a seat. Get comfortable. In the little, you like our little living room we got going on here?
I love it, man. Yeah. This is rocking.
Okay, good.
These pillows feel good, too.
The first time I met you, I was kind of just taken back because you're just in this little petite, sweet, blonde little package right there. And then you open up your mouth and it's like fire. You are passionate about what it is that you do. So please describe what it is that you're so passionate about.
Well, I spent the first 8 years of my career life in working for the government. So you see a lot of failure. I mean, it's just the way it is. Yeah. And unfortunately, we were working with troubled teenage girls. And so I worked as the athletic director at a girls' prison. There were 300 locked up at any one given time, ages 14 to 18. And they were sent because they were too young to go to the women's prison. And so they were labeled, they were told all the things that were wrong with them, they were told all the reasons why they could never change, why they'd never be anything. So basically it was like medicate, label, put them in the world's trash can, and reject, cast away, throw away, and that's it. And during that time, I saw kids go home and get murdered by pimps. They die from drug overdoses, get killed in street gang fights. Some of them committed suicide because they believed the lie that they could never change. And here I am, a believer, knowing that the same Jesus that changed my life could change theirs, and that's what I'm experiencing, and it was just breaking my heart. And so then I spent 3 more years investigating child abuse cases in emergency child protective services. And I saw all the things that happened to those teenage girls when they were little. God said, you just spent 5 years dealing with angry teenage girls, and now I'm taking you back in time and showing you why they were so angry, why the anger was so strong, and how they got where they got, and the why behind the what. I call it the why behind the what. We're so quick to judge, and yet
everybody has a story.
Everybody. Yeah. And God said, if you had walked in their shoes and been where they'd been, that would be you, whatever their you might have been.
Yeah.
So after 8 years of that, I realized that God has not equipped the government to heal broken hearts and set captives free. He's the only one that can do it, and we have to have the freedom to share that message. And they had this real evil thing. First week I worked for the government, they had this evil thing called new staff orientation. First thing they said, separation of church and state. You cannot talk about God here. You can't ever tell him, and I'm like,
so it's like you have the remedy. You have the solution for these girls' lives. You know what it is, but you're in an environment that is not releasing you and encouraging you and even allowing you to share the solution.
That's right.
So you're probably very frustrated.
Oh, frustrated is beyond words. And yet, Priscilla, here's the truth. I know now that God, I was telling God, I want to go to Bible school. And he said, I got you in Bible school right now, girl. I'm showing you everything that looks good and sound good on paper that all the taxpayers are paying for, and it's not working.
And isn't it interesting that had you gone to Bible school, which is where a lot of people think that if I just do white picket fence Christianity, then I'll get what I need to be successful in ministry.
Right.
But sometimes in settings like this is what is equipping you to do exactly what God had purposed for you to do all along.
It's the truth. I know now that he totally ordered my steps and directed my path, but I didn't understand it at the time. And when I would see little kids, you know, being molested and abused and beaten and all that, and I'd have nightmares about it, and we didn't have cell phones back then, so my beeper would go off at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd have to go out and get dressed, meet the police, and go into a home and see an awful thing like that. And you know, when you see it on the news, you read it in the newspaper, you know, it's kind of, you can forget about it.
Yes.
Yeah. But when I saw it with my own eyes, I couldn't get away from it. And to this day, and I'm thankful, I had nightmares back then, but God's taken those away. But I remember being mad at God, like, God, what are you doing with me? And he said, I'm preparing you for the future because I have something that I want you to do, but it's not time yet, and I'll let you know when it's time.
And when the time came, what did it look like that God wanted you to do? And what has happened over the past 20, 30 years? Tell us.
It was the fall of 1982, and I felt that the Lord has started dealing with me, like it's time for you to let go of your government job, and I'm going to have you start a Christian-based organization. And I mean, I was up in the middle of the night, and it was writing so fast because I mean, it was like God was downloading this vision. But there were 3 core principles that he showed me. He said, I want you to take young women in free of charge who want help, because people have to want help.
You got to want it.
I
remember Jesus even asking, do you want to be made whole?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you want it? Okay.
Exactly.
So even if they don't have the resources for your program, financial resources for your program, how does that work? If somebody wants it, but they don't really have the money to pay for it?
Well, here's the way program works. We take these are the 3 things God said. You take those young women in free of charge, every single one of them, because all of them are going to have trust issues. Most of them wouldn't have the money, vast majority. And even the ones that do, they need to know it's not about their mom or dad's checkbook. Mm-hmm. It's about them, and they need to be able to trust you. And they need to be able to look from every angle and see nothing in it except that you genuinely care. So
you founded Mercy Multiplied.
Mercy Multiplied, yes. And it's free of charge. Take the girls in free of charge. Give. Your needs will be met through your giving. So give 10% of everything at least that comes into your ministry to other ministries. Mm-hmm. And thirdly, no government funding, so that you have the full freedom to share Christ.
That's good news, isn't it, y'all? That's really good. Tell us the kinds of women that are coming to you and have been for a long time now.
Right. This is our 32nd year. So
you've literally given your whole life to this passion that God placed in you.
I have. And you know what? I'm more passionate today than I've ever been because of what I've seen happen.
Okay, tell us. We want to hear some stories of what you've seen
that have been transformed. Okay, we deal with girls coming in with addictions, severe sexual abuse, sex trafficking, unplanned pregnancy. We have a licensed adoption agency if girls want to choose that option. If they want to choose to parent, we help prepare them for that. We have girls that have self-harm issues, girls with severe eating disorders. We have one girl, in fact, who came in with a severe eating disorder, and her parents were from Texas, and they were kind of a well-to-do family, so they had paid literally hundreds of thousands of dollars for her to go to the best treatment programs. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so the doctor said, well, your daughter will probably end up dying from this eating disorder, but if she ever does manage to get over it, she's destroyed her body. She'll never be able to have children. So fast forward, that was in 2003. Fast forward to today, she went home, God totally healed her. She got over the eating disorder. She went home, got planted in the local church, met this young man. They did it all the right way, waited, till they were married. But boy, after they got married, I mean, they figured it out real fast because she just gave birth to baby number 7.
So her body's obviously healed and working.
Yes, it's working just fine. It's all working good.
Well, that's wonderful. And the thing is, you see so many success stories like that. This is what I love so much about Mercy Multiplied and why I wanted to introduce Nancy to all of you, is because this is a program that works. There are so many success stories, some of which we have right here in this room with us today.
Yes.
Women whose lives are completely revolutionized by what you were doing. So when a woman enters the program, what does her treatment look like?
Okay. Well, the fun thing for me to answer that question, and I know you'll totally agree with what I'm about to say, but the programs they've been to, they really are treatment programs. They treat symptoms.
Right.
But what God does is he's an inside guy. He comes on the inside of a heart and he heals the wounds, he heals the brokenhearted, he breaks off those chains, and he brings transformation. And it happens through, I mean, you're one of our teachers, Priscilla. I mean, we show your videos in every home we have in the United States. You're teaching videos in the homes we have in other countries. And you're a regular part of our faculty, so you're probably going to start sending me an invoice, you know, to put you on sale.
Put me on the payroll,
Put you
girl.
on that payroll.
Yes. How many houses do you have around the country and the world?
Well, we have 40 bed facilities in Nashville and Sacramento, California, and then in St. Louis, and then our first home is a smaller one, 20-bed facility in West Monroe, Louisiana, home of Duck Dynasty. Many people now know where that is. They used to go, "Where's that?"
Yeah.
You know, now they'll say Duck Dynasty. But and those wonderful folks have gotten involved in providing support, and Miss Kay comes over and hangs out and loves on the girls and has Bible studies and brings all her friends that are in her Bible study. So there's a lot of fun things like that happening. But anyway, and then we have a home in the United Kingdom. We have a home in Vancouver, Canada, and New Zealand.
And you have a home in Nashville.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I have a big 40-bed facility here in Nashville and a 3-story office building where we do all of the officing, the business side for the whole international part of Mercy
And what I
Multiplied.
found really interesting about, you know, the more I've found out about Mercy Multiplied and have talked to you about it, I really have found interesting the detail that you have taken in the kind of food these women are eating, how they are, the arrangement of where they are sleeping and how they are sleeping, the job training that they're getting. So just talk a little bit about the kind of detail to attention you have put into how you're treating these women once they come to you.
Well, you know, it's one thing. You know, it's one thing to say to a young girl, you know, you're loved, you're forgiven, you're valuable, you're treasured, you're a daughter of the King. But if that's really true, I'm sending her a double message if I put her in a bed that somebody threw out of their garage because it wasn't good enough for their kid to sleep on. Mm-hmm. So what we tell our supporters is, you know, we would not want any of our girls to sleep on a bed that you wouldn't want your daughter to sleep on. Not that we're not grateful for anything that comes our way, but I told God from the very beginning, if you're asking me to do this, then I want to be able to do it with excellence. I want the girls to walk through that door, and we've literally had girls from the streets walk through that door and just start sobbing because they can't believe how beautiful everything is. I mean, it's beautiful furniture, it's beautiful beds, it's trained staff, it's food that is, you know, these girls have depleted their bodies with drug addictions and eating disorders and all just the rough lifestyle that they've lived and just not taking care of themselves. And so we have a nutritionist, we have a nurse, you know, it's about healthy, organic, good food and people believe in that. And we even had a couple in Nashville recently who own an organic farm, and they just came out and just said, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep sending all this fresh food your way because they realize that it's helping bring healing to the body. Only God can heal the heart, but the body needs to be healed too. There's a reason why that girl just had 7 kids. I mean, she had to get it all right, you know. Yeah. And God, I believe supernaturally, God touched her and healed her because He said, by my stripes you are healed. But also, we help a girl learn life skills. We help her nutritionally. We have a lot of young girls that come through the doors, and unfortunately, they've never had a parenting, so they don't even know how to wash a load of clothes. We have to teach them how to do that. So it's like the spirit, soul, and body, everything that a young girl would need to know, and we want her to feel loved and treasured. And so we tend to those details. We try to help them get a vision for their future. We say, look at it, your past doesn't have to destroy your future. God has great things in store for you. You can become anything you want to be. And we have Mercy Multiplied is girls that have received God's message that are out there multiplying it in the lives of other people, and it is so fun to watch.
Well, you know what, Nancy, if you just had a little passion, it might be effective. It might be a little bit more effective. When we come back, we're going to meet a woman whose life has been affected and changed and impacted by Nancy Alcorn and Mercy Multiplied. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Priscilla, and I wanted to take an opportunity to invite you personally to join me for a 7-session Bible study on the armor of God. We'll dive deeply into what it means to be equipped to stand firm against the schemes of the enemy. He is very real, and he has been so strategic and targeted in his attacks against us. Why shouldn't we be equally strategic and targeted in standing firm against him?
And you and I have an opportunity to suit up, to put on some armor that works, and to go to battle and to see victory declared in our lives and in the lives of those people that we love.
This Bible study will be one that will change our lives forever and will help us to walk in victory. So plan to join me, won't you? The Armor of God. Hey, welcome back. So glad you have stayed tuned because you are joining us to meet up with Nancy Alcorn, who is an incredible woman who has changed and affected many people's lives, not the least of which is my own. My life has been so impacted by her. And she's also written this book, Ditch the Baggage, Change Your Life, seven Keys to Lasting Freedom. And who of us does not want lasting freedom? And so she teaches it, she lives it, she passes it on. Kay Robertson, the co-star of Duck Dynasty, says this: Nancy Alcorn gives practical and easy to understand lessons for anyone seeking lasting freedom. Take a step onto the path towards peace and hope and get this book today. And I say, Miss Kay, you are right. Everybody needs a copy of this to see what freedom looks like and to see how they can be ushered into it themselves. We have a young woman who is joining us today who knows firsthand about how the journey to freedom looks, and she's going to share her story with us. Would you guys please help me to welcome Camilla to the program today? Hi, Camilla.
Hi.
You look good, girl.
Thank you.
And you have had quite a little change in the trajectory of your life as well, right? Because of coming in contact with Nancy and Mercy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
we want to hear the story. Just tell us kind of what your formative years look like and what path that led you down and then how you ended up connected with this ministry.
Sure. So growing up, I grew up in the church. My father is actually a pastor, and he was relatively well known in the community. He had an opportunity to be on programs such as Face the Nation, worked with ministries, Prison Fellowship with Chuck Colson, and just very respected and held in high regard. So I respected him, looked up to him tremendously, but behind closed doors at home, there's a lot of verbal abuse and emotional abuse because he came from an abusive environment. And he never really dealt with that. And so just growing up, I kind of figured out or learned that, okay, don't really talk about that outside of the home, but this is kind of the way that it is. And so throughout the course of over the course of a few years, he would make periodic threats of committing suicide. And so I didn't really understand what that meant, but when I was about 9 years old, my mom decided to leave him for the final time. And about 2 weeks later, he ended up hanging himself.
Really?
Yes.
So you lost your dad to suicide.
So I lost my dad to suicide, and I didn't really know how to conceptualize that because I was 9. So I just, okay, just go on with it. And from that point, on, things just systematically got worse in regards to just emotionally. I was really shut down. My mom tried to put me in different programs as far as counseling and things like that, but initially I didn't want to go. And then as I proceeded through middle school and into high school, I'd been to numerous counselors. I'd been diagnosed with every type of label that you can possibly imagine, and I just took those on as who I was. And
so you're hearing people label you and you're assuming, okay, this is who I am.
Right.
So I just might as well act in the way that is congruent with what they're saying I am.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so at the time, I was still going to church and things like that, but when I would hear about Jesus or God, all I could do is equate it to what I saw in my home, and I didn't get what that meant, and I was really angry, and so I took on what they told me that I was. So by the time I was in high school, I myself had actually been institutionalized 3 times for attempted suicide. And
by the time you were in high school, could you tell me what you think the top factors were that led you to that point of desperation? Because you can feel hopeless and be emotional and be discouraged and be down and depressed even, but it's another level of desperation that causes you to actually get to the place where you really just want to end your life, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Can you describe what that feels like to be in that place?
Just darkness. Just I felt like an ache in my soul, and I saw absolutely no way to escape that. Plus, I have a doctor, someone, you know, he's got degrees on the wall. He's gone to school telling me that I'm always going to be this way, and I mean, okay, what? You know, why would you want to live that way? And so, I just felt hopeless, and I figured, you know, what's the point of being here?
Mm-hmm. So 3 times you try to take your life, obviously, weren't successful. And then what happens from there?
So from there, I graduated high school. I proceeded to, you know, move on to the college realm, and just partying escalated, got involved. And at this point, I'd been involved with numerous relationships, but I began hanging around a drug dealer, and we became involved, and he was very abusive. And
physically abusive?
It got to that point.
It did.
But primarily it was the psychological, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and I ended up getting pregnant by him, and I ended up having 2 abortions. And so you take on the pain of your dad and all these different things that have happened, and you add that, it's like, I mean, if you didn't think that the shame and the guilt could get any lower than that, it did. And at that point, you know, I really didn't know I was just existing, you know. I had no value in myself as a person.
And how old were you at this point?
I was about 23.
And you were in college?
I'd actually decided to not pursue school at that time, and I was just pretty much in the party scene. That was my life at that point.
Okay. And so then after you reach 23 years of age, so you're an adult, you've chosen a lifestyle where now you are not just dating this drug dealer, but I'm assuming you were taking drugs.
I was smoking marijuana.
Yeah.
Pretty, like, that was the daily. And then I was abusing alcohol. So that was pretty much my life.
And then one day, do you overhear about Mercy Ministry?
Not exactly, actually. I was a bartender, and I ended up getting fired one day. And the reason why that's significant is the very next day I was sitting and watching TBN, which is like a miracle in itself, because why would that be on? Like, why in the world is that on? And there was 2 pastors on, and they were like, you know, if you want to accept Christ, say this with us. And I was just like, all right, whatever. And that's pretty much how I decided to become a Christian. And I joke because my roommate at the time, like, she wasn't a Christian. And then after that, I was always watching TBN, and she like moved out 2 weeks later, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. But so at that point, I started going to church, and things got a little bit better, but there was, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. And so I prayed one night specifically, not knowing about Mercy. There's got to be a place that I can go free of charge to get help, because I knew that I needed help, and I wanted help, and I was hungry for it. And so,
but you knew that if you had to be able to afford expensive help, then it was going to shut you out right away.
Right. There's no way.
Yeah.
And so about 2 weeks later, I got a Joyce Meyer magazine, and Nancy was inside. And so I applied. I got the application. I started the process when I was 24, and then I decided not to go. I was like, I'll just figure this out. So,
can I ask where your mom was during all this time?
Sure. My mom, she's a prayer warrior. I mean, you ask her what happened, she's just like, God told me, you know, let her go, and I'll deal with it. And so, you know, my mom was just doing the best that she could. She's a phenomenal mother, like how she was able to deal with me and everything that was going on, and then what happened.
So she was still there, very present, just in a way that was handing you over to the Lord to let him do, because she'd done everything that she could at that point.
Right, like she would listen to what was going on, but she stopped trying to control everything at that point.
Okay, keep going, come on, we're enjoying it.
Let's see, so I, you know, through about 24 to 28, I, you know, was working. I was able to function. I became very good at having that facade. Like if you were to meet me, unless you kind of did a little bit of digging, for the most part, you couldn't really, at least I don't think people could really tell what was going on.
So you knew about Nancy at 24, started applying at 24,
Right.
but then went through 4 more years of living the way you were because you just didn't want to take that step and go.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you look back, why do you think that was?
Pride. Yeah. This is a big one.
Yeah.
So
Then what happens at 28?
when I was 28, I had a just really bad night. I had gotten in an argument with my boyfriend at the time, and I ended up getting so upset. I went over to a friend's house. I hadn't smoked marijuana in years, and I knew that she had it, and I ended up smoking it. And I coughed so hard. I was just like gagging. I couldn't breathe. I ended up hugging a toilet, and I just had this epiphany. I was like, I'm 28. And I'm hugging a toilet. Like, there's something wrong with this picture. And mercy just dropped into my mind, and I got up from the bathroom floor and I went into her office where she had a computer set up, and then I just went online, and
So
that's
you're
how I got the
currently
application.
high.
I am high.
You were high looking up Mercy
Yes,
Ministries.
I was.
So did you call Mercy Ministries high?
I might have, I don't remember, but
So after
Yeah.
you entered the program, how has your life changed?
gosh, I don't really relate to everything that I just went through, because God's just, I feel like I have the same body, but he took out the person that was inside and put a new person
Beautiful.
inside. That's really the only way that I can really describe it.
So you almost feel like, as you're talking about this to us, you almost feel like you're talking about somebody else.
Absolutely.
Like that wasn't even me.
Right.
So I don't know anybody, because I certainly have a whole season of my life that I look back on, and I'm like, I don't even know who that crazy person was right there. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Where there are decisions you made, relationships you allowed, choices that you indulged in, and you look at it now and you do feel removed from it because God gets a hold of you, revolutionizes your thinking. The Word of God transforms our thinking and causes us to just walk down a completely different path and make different choices. I'm so grateful for that. And what have you seen, the change in her from the time that you first met her till now? What are the words of encouragement you would speak over her life that are so contrary to what she was labeled when she was little?
She is, well, for one thing, she's a tremendous gifted speaker. She's traveled and spoken with me in conferences, and she's confident, she's bold, she is so humble. She said prideful a while ago. She's filled with humility. She made a total commitment to God and knew that she was not going to settle for less than God's best, and God sent her a wonderful husband. And you've been married how many years?
4 years.
4 years.
Beautiful.
And he loves her, he supports her, he knows everything about her past, and he thinks she's the most beautiful, gorgeous thing he's ever seen. And they had the best relationship, and they'll come, that's what's so cool about these girls coming in free of charge, and they have their own business, and they become monthly partners with us, and they're giving back so that other girls like them can get the help.
Well, listen, you are a beautiful picture of what freedom looks like, don't y'all think? Beautiful picture of what freedom looks like. We're so glad that you shared your story with us. And listen, if you need more information about how to get free and be free and stay free from any issue that might be just troubling you in your life, that you might be addicted to, hooked on, a habit, a lifestyle, a substance, anything, listen, you can be free too. And I know that Nancy Alcorn's book can begin to help you with that, but also know that Mercy Multiplied is a ministry that really can change the course of your entire life. You're going to want to click on the links that we have given you for Nancy Alcorn and for Mercy Multiplied so that you can learn more about them, not only if you're in need of help, but if you just want to support a great ministry, a great organization that is worth investing in financially and in your time, volunteering, in prayer. All of that goes into making this ministry exactly what it is, a ministry that has changed thousands of lives. Thank you so much for joining us.
Since 1983, Mercy has helped thousands and thousands of young women find freedom from life-controlling issues such as addictions, self-harm, sexual abuse, unplanned pregnancy, eating disorders, and even young women who have been sex trafficked. We take every single girl in free of charge because of people just like you. We never take government funding or any other funding that would take away our freedom to share Christ. The girls who reach out to Mercy for help come from all 50 states. We have 4 locations across the country, and then we also are working on a 5th location in Florida. We also have 3 international locations with more expansion underway. For anyone out there who is hurting, who is desperate, who is looking for an answer, there is hope. There is freedom. No matter what you may be going through now, no matter what you've gone through in the past, there is hope. There is an answer.